All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning. All right. Before we start our meeting this morning, I'd like to make some opening remarks. First, I want to extend a special thanks to the Evanston City Council members and my fellow Evanstonians for participating in this important and time-sensitive gathering. I recognize the short and inopportune time frame under which this meeting was called, and appreciate taking the time to ensure that Evanston continues to be the best position to responsibly embrace and execute legislation that improves upon the well-being of our community. In light of several of our neighboring and sometimes competing communities officially opting out of the county minimum wage and sick leave ordinance, that's something you could boo to. I felt it incumbent upon my responsibilities as mayor to offer up to our own community and council an opportunity to directly discuss and address this important, time-sensitive matter that will inevitably impact our residents, businesses, and economy. The furtherance of an open, transparent, and honest government was a pillar of my campaign, and I stand by that promise today and will do so long as I remain the mayor. To ensure that everyone very clearly understands my personal position on the minimum wage and sick leave ordinance, it's simple, and that which I have reinforced since I initiated my campaign. I will reinforce it again right now. I currently support the implementation of the Cook County ordinance. Believe that our whole city benefits from a workforce that is respected, treated, and compensated fairly. Many have unfortunately and mistakenly interpreted my call for an open and transparent dialogue on this issue as a modification to that position. That could not be further from the truth. My position currently remains as it has been and as has been articulated many times over. Nonetheless, since assuming office and with an absolute willingness and obligation to listen to the many diverse voices of our community, have come to understand that not all share my sentiment, particularly as the dynamics of the legislation reveals itself and neighboring communities opt out. I've called this meeting to foster dialogue and to allow the community to listen to those voices, along with the many voices of those that I know that share my current position on the topic. The discussion over the past 2 days on this subject has been heated in some quarters of the community. On the issue directly before us, should the city of Evanston opt out of the Cook County minimum wage and sick leave statutes set to go into effect tomorrow, Saturday, July 1st, for a short period to further discuss the implications of this law in Evanston, I believe the community has spoken loud and clear. No. I am therefore proposing that the City Council take no action on Evanston Ordinance 66-0-17. Instead, and this is important, I would like to use today as the beginning of a new dialogue on these important issues. It is clear now that Evanston will be the only city or among a small handful of home rule suburban Cook County communities that will be covered under these Cook County ordinances. What can we do as a community to support individuals who find themselves working in jobs in Evanston that make the minimum wage to help them grow their skills and find better jobs? I'd argue find careers. What can we do as a community to support Evanston businesses that employ these workers? If Evanston is going to meet these challenges separate from our neighboring communities, it is important for all of us to work together to support both our workers and their Evanston employers. I would like to offer my colleagues on the City Council an opportunity to speak, then invite Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky and County Commissioner Larry Suffredin to the podium to make a few remarks. Then I want to open the microphone for the next 45 minutes to allow anyone to speak who has, and I stress, who has constructive, concrete ideas on how the City of Evanston and the City Council can work together to support minimum wage workers and the Evanston businesses that employ them to be successful. It is my plan to place this issue on the July 10th, 2017 City Council agenda for more discussion and the development of action steps moving forward. I welcome today's dialogue on this important issue and look forward to listening and working with all of you toward our shared goal of making Evanston a better city for all. Remember, this meeting is not an affront to democracy. This meeting is democracy. So now I'd like to, for remarks of the City Council, start with Alderman Wilson, and then we'll go around the dais to you, Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you to everybody here and who I've heard from in the past couple of days for the engagement. It was always my intention to allow the county ordinance to take effect, and I think that was collectively the intention all along. As other communities started to, I'll call it snowball, the issue was getting more coverage. And I was hearing from people in the community different questions. Why aren't we opting in, for example? And it was apparent that businesses, individuals, and people in the community didn't fully understand what was happening. And, you know, while we've had a long time to do something about this, in my mind, we didn't really need to do anything because it was just going to happen. So the mayor's suggesting that we have a meeting to bring this to everyone's attention so we could get clarity, we could get information out to people, seemed like a good idea. Now, it's been a very, heated I think is the wrong word, but it's been a very spirited conversation. I think that's great. And the intention of the meeting was to get people's attention and let people know what's going on. So look at this room. Look at how many phone calls we've gotten. Look how many emails we've gotten. The response has been truly overwhelming. So to the extent that that was the purpose was accomplished. People know what's going on. They know what our values are. And other communities can look and see what we've chosen to do. I agreed with the mayor that we should be doing this, but the emergency nature wasn't an attempt to sneak anything in. I've heard lots of different things.
Don't do it again.
So, and that's not helpful. You know, what's helpful is
Order in the chambers.
people were upset with me for not saying I wouldn't listen to the other side. People have said a lot of hateful things to me. People have said things that are not true about my position. People have said that I didn't support the ordinance. That's not true. I can't answer every Facebook thing that's out there. The easiest tool that we have as your governing body is to have a meeting, let people come and talk, and to tell you and the press what's going on. I can't do my job on Facebook. I'm not Facebook friends with all 70,000+ people in Evanston. So this is the tool that we have. It's the most convenient tool. We wouldn't have picked to do it on an emergency basis, but we felt like it was important to get people information and engaged. And guess what? You are. That's useful. You can disagree, and that's fine. I listen to everybody. But because I wasn't getting calls and we weren't hearing from people that they didn't understand it last week.
Order.
I'm sorry. I'm just telling you how it played out. So it's important for me to be here. As it turns out, I have a business myself, a small business, and the lease ends today. So I was supposed to be there first thing this morning moving, so I actually have to leave and move my office. But I do want to tell you, I'm going to be watching the video. I want to hear what everybody has to say. Like I said, I appreciated the messages. I appreciated the calls. I took as many of them as I could field. And, you know, my policy is I will listen to everybody. And I will not tell anybody that I'm not going to listen to them. If you want me to say I'm going to disregard somebody else, it's not going to happen. But I appreciate what everybody's you know, put forth here. And I appreciate the effort of the county to try to do a broader implementation here. All along, it's been my belief that we should be doing something on a statewide and nationwide basis. I know that Congresswoman Schakowsky has been working very hard for an extended period of time in very challenging circumstances. Same thing with our state legislators. So, you know what you can do? You can answer Mayor Haggerty's call to how we can support the employees and the businesses, and you can support our other legislators. This is not a one-day issue. This is a big issue that's across the country, and we might be standing alone at the moment, but we should be putting ourselves out there as an example of the fact that it can work. So let's demonstrate that this can work well and be have a positive impact. So thank you, and again, I apologize that I have to leave. We're not going to opt out. It's taking effect tomorrow. We're not even going to have a vote on it. So.
Thank you. All right. Everyone understands the statement that I made up front, right? So the statement was that we are not going to discuss the ordinance. Okay, that was on the agenda for today. Okay, so, but we are going to have some constructive dialogue with folks that have come. But before we do that, we are having any remarks from any of our aldermen. So, Alderman Ruth Simmons.
Thank you, and thank you all for your advocacy and your attention to this important matter. I absolutely and very firmly support the minimum wage increase. As I did last October when I testified before the Cook County Board in support of Commissioner Suffredin's ordinance. Continuing beyond that, understanding that even the $13 is not a livable wage here in Evanston. My full-time work and my service is to help low-income entrepreneurs and other residents to increase their skill set and have better opportunities, working with the city to make sure that we include minority women and local businesses in contracting and procurement opportunities, and focusing on this as my full-time work. So I'm excited that Evanston is owning up to everything that we say that we are, that we will not be opting out. And thank you all for coming.
Alderman Suffredin.
Sure. I'll just be brief. I think going forward, we should heed Mayor Haggerty's call to figure out a way, if we're going to be at a different wage in our surrounding communities, to support our businesses. And speaking for myself, I think many people in this room, the people that I was elected to represent, our principles and values are not subject to the whims of the Village of Wilmette or Skokie. The city of Evanston should be a leader, not a follower, and going forward, I intend to keep it that way. Thank you.
Alderman Ravel.
So good morning, everyone, and thank you also for coming to demonstrate your strong support for the minimum wage increase and the sick leave portions of this ordinance. And I am strongly in support of Evanston being part of this effort going forward to ensure that workers in Evanston are able to make a better living. I think I know a lot of people were caught by surprise that we were having this meeting today and feel that it's perhaps should have happened earlier, or perhaps was unnecessary, but I am glad we are having this conversation. It's brought a lot of attention to the issue in general and for Evanston in particular, and I think it's an opportunity for us in Evanston to send a really strong message to the greater Chicagoland and to those communities who have opted out of the ordinance, and then also to Oak Park, that is going to be making its decision later today, to say that this ordinance is the way to go, this increase in the minimum wage. I've found it really interesting. I know probably a lot of you read the article that was in the Chicago Tribune a couple of days ago that seemed to indicate, based on a report from Seattle, that this increasing the minimum wage had negative impacts on workers. And so that caused me to then read a couple of the other articles that were forwarded to us. I read the very interesting article from the Center on Wage and Employment Dynamics Dynamics that came out just earlier this month, and it reinforced the message that increasing the minimum wage is really a great benefit to workers and doesn't have to have a negative impact on job opportunities. So I'm really glad we're going to be moving forward with this here in Evanston, and I look forward to our discussion about how we can ensure that as it moves forward and is implemented, that it truly does help our workforce, and also that we have ways to help our business community.
Alderman Rainey.
Well, I have mixed feelings about this meeting, and I felt that it should be canceled because I felt that we should opt in, and by canceling the meeting, we would have opted in. And I believe our energies, look at the energies that it took to get everybody out here. People should be working and earning a living wage, not leaving their jobs and coming to a meeting that was called for no reason when we were going to opt in anyway. So, I think we can still do that. We can still do that as a community, as a matter of fact. I just don't understand why lately we've, like with the Harley Clark, with this issue, we force people to advocate and to spend so much energy on an issue. It just, it tires people out and it wears them out. Let's just start doing things as opposed to, taking all this time away from other more important things. So let's get on with it. Let's all go home, go back to work. Let's get on with it. Also, I found it very shocking that people wrote to me and said, "How dare you not support the minimum wage?" Me? I mean, my mother was a union steward. Are you kidding me?
All right, Alderman Fleming.
So, very briefly, I just want to echo the thank you all for coming. Despite what you had to do to get here, I had to move things myself to get here, but here we are. So let's have the conversation. What I will say, to clarify, and I was telling, I think, somebody this, that I work in perception, because that's what rules people. A lot of people don't look at reality. They don't read they don't know the facts. We see that with our elected official in Washington. So I deal in perception because that's where most people actually can hear you. But I do want to try to extend our brains to some facts here. So even with us opting in, there's some things that we need to address in Evanston. So if we look at our unemployment rates, which I did this morning, based on the 2015 numbers, our unemployment rate for our black community is 14.1%. For our white community, it's 5.5%. For our Latino community, it's 7.7%. We have over 5,000 Evanston residents with no health insurance. We have over 8,000 households that make under $35,000 a year. Our median income for a household for white residents is $86,000. For black residents, it's $43,000. So I'm glad you all are here. I'm glad we're opting in. $10 is not enough, but we need to be real with ourselves here in Evanston. We need to talk about the racial and socioeconomic disparities we have. We need to stop rallying and being reactive. We need to participate. We need to hold our elected officials, including myself, responsible for things we say during council meetings, for things we say on the street, for commitments we make to you, at whatever time it is, because you elected us. And so I'm happy to see you here, but I'm going to push you all further. You need to be here next council meeting, July the 10th, where we talk about our equity plan. We're going to see what our commitment is to moving forward with a real equity plan that addresses race. We can't act like race does not exist in Evanston. I know we all live here for diversity, but if you look at where we live, we have communities that are 97% white. So let's stop talking about the diversity and let's move past and get some real equity here. I'm also going to implore you all. I'm also going to implore you all to come on July 5th. So at 5 o'clock, we're talking about equity. And then whenever our city council meeting comes up, we're going to look at some estimated budget numbers. Our city manager has some concerns. We live in the state of Illinois, so we don't have to talk about our budgetary concerns. So he is graciously going to put together some budget numbers for 2018. If you really care about this community and want to see what we care about, you need to come and make your voice heard when we start talking about the budget. That'll start July the 10th, and then we will roll through. Wally does a great job of having some town hall meetings about the budget. In the 9th Ward, we will have a ward meeting talking about the budget. But please do not email me after the budget is passed and complain. That is not, I'm just going to be honest with you, that's not helpful because the budget is passed. If you want to participate, if you want to make change in this community, you have to engage with your elected leaders, not just at your 45-minute comment time here, but as issues come up. You can reach us all. Please don't knock on our doors, but you can email us, you can call us. We live very close. So you have to take some responsibility, and you have to make your voice heard. Sometimes you do have to rally, and I'm all about a good rally, but just participate a little earlier. And I say that because I've sat there, and that's why I sit here now, because I got tired of rallying, so I decided to make some decisions. But nonetheless, I think everyone up here is up here because we do care about the community, whether you voted for us or not. And so give us the benefit of the doubt and be a little early, participate early, come on July 10th. That will show me really what our commitment is, what we're going to do with equity, and what we're going to start talking about with our budget. So let's start that on July the 10th. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Fleming. Alderman Fisk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I want to apologize to all of you for asking you to come out today and taking time from your own lives and your jobs and your families to come here. Just as a personal aside, I know that Tom drove in from Springfield. I got up at 4 this morning, drove in from Wisconsin. Eamon Kelly flew in from California. We've all come because this is a really important issue to us. And to me particularly, as we deal with the issues that come to us at council and work on police issues and homelessness issues and affordable housing issues, it all comes down to jobs. It's jobs. And you can't expect to solve the big problems that we face if people aren't making a living wage. Now, I will, and when we were all campaigning and we went to the DPOE debates, before we went to the debates, we were asked to fill out a questionnaire, and one of the questionnaires was, do you support a $15 minimum wage? And those of us who were running opposed, I think all answered those. I'm not sure everyone on the council filled those out, but I said, absolutely, yes, I do. Not only did I say, yes, I do, but as a former small business owner running a mom and pop store with my husband, we paid our help $15 an hour. That's still not enough. That's not enough to support a family or put a child through school. It's not enough, but it is a start. So, again, as we serve on the council, if we don't look at these problems holistically, then I don't think we're really doing our jobs. So again, thank you all for being here. You have my strong support. I appreciated all of the phone calls I got. It took me about an hour to get through them all the messages last night, but I especially appreciate the people from my ward that I heard from. It's lovely to see you all here today, but I wish it had been under different circumstances. And again, I apologize for having you losing part of your day to come here, but I hope we can continue to work on this together because we've got a long way to go. And I want to just say one little personal thing because I always have a story to tell. And that is the house that I live in Evanston, where my husband and I are very proud to be. It was actually built by the leader of the Socialist Party who in 1907, and he was the leader of the International Socialist Party, the editor of the International Socialist Review in Chicago, and I swear that there's something in my house that makes an agitator. So I'm happy to stand alongside of you, and thank you all for coming.
Alderman Braithwaite.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Along with everyone else, I just want to thank you all for taking the time out of your busy schedules to attend this meeting. I want to acknowledge the fact that and apologize that I didn't have an opportunity to respond to all the emails and phone calls. I want to thank Congresswoman Jan Schakowsky, State Senator Dan Biss, President Tony Pretwinkle, Cook County Commissioner Larry Suffredin, along with the many others who reached out to me on this very important issue. I want to share my support for the mayor and his statements. I couldn't agree more of the importance of this meeting. So for those of you that took the time, as well as my fellow colleagues, I thank you. I think it is a very valuable moment in the history of Evanston, and we take advantage of it to do the necessary education, because it's going to take more than the energy and support in this room, and that's going to have to carry over July 1st in making sure that we support our local businesses. And I think it would be remiss if I didn't share it, that with this increase, we will need to support our businesses, and some of us will have to change our behavior. I think it's important to note that the increase in the wages will mean an increase in products for some, and hopefully not laying off of other employees. I think it's also important that we continue to support our state legislators and as well as our federal legislators. This needs to be statewide, not just municipality by municipality, and I hope you continue to support our federal and state legislators. The last thing that I wanted to share on a good note with our committee, the MWEBE that I serve with Alderman Simmons and the support of the mayor, that we're being very proactive with this, and we're looking to partner with the Chamber of Evanston. We're looking at our city local spend, and we're going to try to find ways to increase the recycling of our local dollars. So again, I just want to say thank you. I want to apologize, myself and Alderman Simmons. We have a funeral to attend at 11, so unfortunately I'll have to leave this meeting at that time. Thank you all again.
Alderman Nguyen.
Yes. Well, I also thank all of you for coming out this morning. And I realize what a big effort it is to get this many people here. But I do think that this is a testament to what Evanston is as a community and always has been. If you look around the room, you can just think that each one of you represents at least 10 more people. I've talked with many of you, and I've written to many of you. I'm sorry if I'm not able to get back in touch with all of you who have written or emailed me or called me in the last 24 hours. I really appreciate the engagement. I have always been a longtime supporter of raising the minimum wage and improving sick leave policies, and I continue to support that. And I believe that very strongly that we should stay in. We should not opt out. Okay. But as you've heard, we now stand alone. And we stand alone in this, but we are all part of a very large economy. And as much as we think this should be statewide, and I support the efforts of making it statewide and it should be national, we have a system that when the minimum wage was first established, should have been indexed. So we should never have been in the situation of having the distortion of much too low a minimum wage that has created an economy that we all benefit from in the sense of there being very cheap labor, which is unfair to our workers. So we are alone in this, but together as a community, we have to work together to make sure that our local businesses can weather this and continue to thrive. Retail is suffering right now, and it's suffering because of the internet. And we all participate in that. But if you can buy it locally, you must buy it locally and not off the internet. That is really, really important. I have businesses in my ward that give you the best, most personalized service and tell you what you should buy and how you should buy it, and then people leave their store and order the product from the internet. That's not fair. And so if you can buy it in Evanston, we must buy it. That is absolutely critical. That's critical so that these workers who are earning this new minimum wage continue to have employment, and that these businesses that are now paying the minimum wage and this sick leave continue to thrive and have these employees. We all are participating in this larger economy. We've changed the playing field somewhat here in Evanston because it's our value, but we need to make sure that the other aspects of that playing field are improved for both the worker and the business. So all of us here need to spread the word that it isn't just passing this legislation, or opting in or staying in. It's all of us participating in the economy of our community that makes us thrive. The businesses that we have here do well, and we are the envy of so many other communities because of the wide array of businesses that we have. But they are struggling against the internet. And so if we want to keep Evanston the thriving economic center it is, we all must participate. And if you have to pay a little bit more to buy it here in Evanston, to me, that's worth the sacrifice, because I know the business owner, I know the people who help me with the product, and I want to continue to have a thriving business community. So all of us, that's part of the task, as Alderman Fleming said, and the mayor has said, that we all are in this together. Even though we're standing alone, and I believe that we are setting the trend. The other communities just don't realize it yet. But this is what we have to do. So all of us need to take this great activism and turn it outward into our business community. So thank you all for coming, and do continue to participate. We have hard times of budget discussions coming ahead, and we need all of the wisdom in the community to help us weather this. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Alderman Nguyen. I just want to give a quick, just a little background of how we did come to be here, okay? Because I know there are people that are questioning that. The general consensus, right, in Evanston is that people need a higher minimum wage. And that has played itself out in referendums that have been voted on in the past and everything else. There was confidence that lots of communities were going to, do nothing, not opt out, but in essence do nothing, so that they would opt in come tomorrow with a new $10 minimum wage here in Cook County. And recently on Monday, Wilmette didn't do that. They decided to opt out. So they're going to still offer $8.25 come tomorrow. That is not Evanston, right? What are we offering tomorrow? $10 an hour right here, and you heard it unanimously from this council up here. But that happened on Monday. On Wednesday, we learned that Skokie was going to be putting an ordinance out for discussion at a meeting coming up next week. I think it's July 5th. Is that correct? 6th, excuse me. July. I'm glad you guys know that date, all right? Because we don't want to be an island. And there's a tremendous amount of, advocacy and energy in this room, and that needs to be transferred to Skokie. That helps protect our businesses. You're looking for something to do? There you go. Go to Skokie and put pressure on Skokie and make sure that they understand the importance of increasing the minimum wage. And then we also learned on Wednesday that tonight at 5 o'clock, there's a similar discussion that is being had here in Oak Park, right? Another community that we sort of hold up as a sister community to Evanston, and they're having that. So hopefully the stand that Alderman took here today is one that we see happen in Oak Park tonight at 5 o'clock. But there was another conversation or a meeting on Wednesday evening with our Economic Development Committee. Okay, and this issue was raised there at the Economic Development Committee. Some of our aldermen had heard from businesses who said, wait a second, aren't we going to have a conversation about this? And so that precipitated this meeting. We think it's really important to practice good government in Evanston. We're all frustrated about some of the things that happen in Washington, D.C., where we don't see any citizen engagement or input. I'm thinking healthcare right now, and that makes us very angry. Well, we've done two great things today. we've reaffirmed our value of increasing the minimum wage, and we've demonstrated that good government matters here in Evanston, and that we will get together and we will talk about important issues. And this one was important enough to talk about, and I hope there will be constructive ideas when we get to the citizen comment. But right now, I'm really proud to present our Congresswoman, Jan Schakowsky, who's going to make a couple remarks.
I've lived in Evanston for 45 years, and I am so proud of that every single day, and including for sure this day. I'm so proud to hear from each one of our elected officials, from the mayor. And I'm especially proud that all of these wonderful people from Evanston are here today. Yes, it was a sacrifice, but I'm telling you, this is what really makes a difference in our country, not just in our city, the citizen involvement. And, you know, as much as I'm sure it was a sacrifice for some people, it also sent a very important signal that, you know, when these kinds of issues come up, that the community wants to be and is engaged. And so it's very important that everyone is here. I want to thank Commissioner Suffredin for introducing and fighting and helping pass the ordinance that will make a difference in so many people's lives tomorrow. I want to tell you that were the legislature not in session, that Daniel Biss, Robin Gable, and Laura Fine would also be here today. We sent out a joint statement about this. So what makes us all so proud of Evanston is that we are this progressive and caring community. We don't wait to see what others are doing. We take responsibility for our community. I really appreciate what Alderman Fleming had to say, because I think we talk a lot about, we celebrate our diversity in every way, racially, economically, ethnically, religiously, but I think you're right that if we take that seriously, then there are a lot of issues that we need to pay attention to and show up for. Showing up really matters. Let me say, Mayor Hagerty, showing up matters. And you know, yes, at the federal level, we certainly are having a problem, but I want to tell you that what is happening outside the Congress of the United States today is more important and effective than what's happening inside the Congress today. It's not an accident that bill was withdrawn on that horrible, terrible healthcare legislation, and we have to keep fighting. Okay, so here's what I want to say. I mean, I'm proud. Every day in the city of Evanston, there's a soup kitchen that we have. People voted overwhelmingly, even though they don't have kids in the school system, to raise our school funding. That's who we are here in Evanston. I believe that we can be a beacon, as we have in the past, not waiting to see what other people do, but to say we believe that people in Evanston deserve, all of you have said it today, deserve, well, you know, $10 an hour. Not $8.25 an hour makes $17,000 a year. $10 makes about $20,000 a year. It's really not a living wage, but it certainly is helpful. And so, though we're not going to pass it as much as we try at the federal level to raise the minimum wage, state legislators are fighting to do that. It's not going to happen. You have taken the opportunity, and I'm so proud of that, to say we can do something. At least for the people in our town, we can do something to improve in a substantial way their livelihoods and their lives. And so I thank you for that. And I do want to point out that as much as we worry maybe about competition from others, right across our border, tomorrow, the city of Chicago is raising its minimum wage to $11 an hour. So So, maybe at some other time that then we can talk about what else we can do. Maybe we can do even better. People in Evanston voted 88% on a referendum to raise the minimum wage, 89% to have earned paid leave. I want to make that point. You earn 1 hour of paid leave for every 40 hours that you work. So it takes 40 weeks to even get 5 days of paid leave if your kids are sick or you have an elderly parent or you're sick yourself. So this is a great thing. This is a great day for Evanston. I really thank you, Mayor Haggerty, for this opportunity for our aldermen to speak out and an opportunity for us to all organize for the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman Schakowsky. The next speaker is going to be Larry Suffredin, Commissioner Larry Suffredin, who knows a lot about this ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and ladies and gentlemen of the City Council. I gave to the clerk a letter from President Toni Preckwinkle expressing her concerns about the ordinances are pending, but in it talks about her commitment to economic development and the need for us to work together. I often start talks by saying, I represent you in the best functioning large government left in Illinois. We, like the city of Evanston, have a balanced budget. We pay our bills. We pay our pension costs. We have programs to try to improve the quality of lives of our citizens. Unfortunately, we live in Illinois. When I passed this bill, this ordinance in the county board, I said I hoped that we would get the federal government and the state government to do something about the minimum wage. On Monday of this week, the Senate sent to the governor Senate Bill 81, which is a bill that passed both houses of the General Assembly. It gets to $15 an hour in minimum wage by 2022. So it's a longer ramp than what's in our bill, which only gets to $13 an hour. But it is something we should all be putting pressure on the governor to sign, because we all want a level playing field. I introduced this ordinance because I was going down Howard Street one day and I realized that on one side of the street people were making $10.50 and on our side they were making $8.25. That's not right. Our competition, I believe, is not Wilmette, by the way. I really believe it is the city of Chicago. And the one thing I want you to realize is that when Chicago passed its minimum wage ordinance and its sick leave ordinance, the business group said, you don't have the power to do it. They've said the same things about us. But you know what? Nobody went to court because they realized they would lose in court. And after a while, the Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce realized that the Chicago businesses were getting a more stable workforce, that one was better trained, many of them educated in our schools, because I think we export more workers than we import at that level of employment. And they decided, well, we'll live with it because we're benefiting from it. Today, we're going to try to level that playing field, even though there's a $1 difference between the minimum wage that goes in effect tomorrow. The Illinois Constitution gave us this opportunity to have this discussion today because it says you as a home rule unit and the county as the only home rule county in the state, when we have a conflict, you can have an ordinance. If the conflict is different, we'll go with your ordinance, not ours. I thank you for not passing a conflicting ordinance today. Both of our governments are the safety net governments of this state. We are the ones who protect people. We do it through health care primarily. You do it through the other services, especially the housing services that you provide to individual residents. One of the things that this increase in minimum wage will do is it will give people more money to, one, be able to pay what that affordable rent should be, because all the studies show you can't make it at $8.25 an hour, and it will help in our system people make the co-pays that are necessary under many of the health care plans that are out there. I thank you for the opportunity to be here, and I thank this community. We are very fortunate to live in a community where participatory democracy is not just a phrase, it is action. And while people may disagree with us, it is a respectful discussion. I just talked with Jim Schermerhorn, who's the president of the Evanston Chamber of Commerce, and Jan and I and the other state officials often appear before that Chamber of Commerce. I look forward to having conversations with them and with you on things we can do to improve the quality of business climate here in Evanston. Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. So, Commissioner Sufferton. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to give ourselves 45 minutes, and City Manager, if we can keep track of that. And the next 45 minutes is for anyone who wants to come to the microphone up here. And I stress, okay, anyone who wants to speak and has something has constructive, creative ideas on how this city council can work to support minimum wage workers in Evanston businesses that employ them all to be successful. Okay, that is the nature of the framework in which we're having this discussion. Commissioner Sufferton is still around. Congresswoman Schakowsky is still here. They will be hearing any of these constructive ideas. I would also encourage, look, while the vast, certainly majority of people in this room feel really, really positive, myself included, about what this council has just agreed to and that we're opting in tomorrow, there are some concerns out there, and our job is to try and best address those concerns. So if there are people that have come, if there are folks that have come to this meeting and have some of those concerns, I would encourage you to come up and express those. And I would ask everyone in the audience to be very, very respectful of folks that are coming up and talking about these concerns. Thank you. Linda, why don't you come up? And then if you come up to the mic, if you could just announce yourself so everyone knows who you are. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Linda Larkin, Executive Director of the Evanston Chamber of Commerce. I'm here today just to represent the people that are chamber members, the businesses that are chamber members. That said, most of our chamber members are already paying above minimum wage here in Evanston. That said, we do have chamber members that are being adversely affected within their business structure because of the increase. They are having to lay off people. They are having to cut benefits, unfortunately. I think that the minimum wage works well for our summer youth that are coming in for jobs, but it does not work well for people that have a family, that have incredible expenses to put those summer youth people through school. So all of that said, what I'm thinking is that there may be a compromise that can be made within the Evanston structure to raise minimum wage, but do it at possibly a different level than what's being currently suggested. That's just an idea that's being put out there. However, I think that Evanston should come together and bring all of the business community together that has a definitive opinion on this and let them be heard. I feel that the reaction to this particular bill was knee-jerk. I started to get calls on this on Tuesday. We should have gotten calls on this last year when this notion floated out there. I firmly believe that to ask the Evanston Chamber of Commerce and to ask our City Council to come back at the 11th hour and make a decision is a disservice to all of us and to our community as a whole. So I would ask people, if you have an opinion, please voice it early and often so that your council can actually address your need in a business-like manner.
Thank you, Linda. Okay, everyone, let's be respectful of the speakers that are going to come up here. I am going to ask you to keep your remarks within 2 minutes, and we'll do all the speakers we can within the 45 minutes. I'm sorry? Okay, so I didn't state that up front, so that's on me. We are going to time and keep people's comments to 2 minutes. And again, I ask that you provide suggestions. Thank you, Alderman Ruth Simmons, Alderman Braithwaite. I ask that you provide suggestions that are constructive to the City Council and the city staff that we can be thinking about to support employees and employers in Evanston. Thank you. Right. We are not, so, okay, so let me explain the technical procedure or whatever that was done today. There was a sign-in sheet that folks signed.
There was a sign-in sheet to speak separately, and those of us who were sure to do it, the assessment seemed
I understand. This meeting was is a what I described, let me state, is a community gathering that it was clear, okay, in conversations with all of my colleagues up here and council members that this ordinance was not even going to be moved on. So we did not call a roll at this meeting. The public comments, therefore, do not have to be discussed at this meeting. And so this meeting and what I laid out at the beginning was that this council is going to take no action, okay, on that, which means tomorrow the minimum wage in Evanston is how much? 10. That's right, okay, because there was no action. So what I am asking, though, is for a constructive dialogue about ideas that we have for improving the livelihoods of low-wage workers in this community and employers in this community. Okay?
Okay. My name is Lenny Lampkin. I've lived in Evanston, raised my children in Evanston for the last 30 years. I've supported candidates for the city council, worked for candidates against other candidates, supported Jan Schakowsky. This is Evanston, and as I said, I know you guys are not going to opt out, and I've been here before. City manager knows me. Progressive roots. This is not Wisconsin. This is not Skokie. This is not Wilmette. So I thank you all for saying that you're going to opt in rather than opting out. I used to make a good living. I lost my job in 2008. I went from making over $100,000 a year to living on a minimum wage. While I was on minimum wage, I qualified for food stamps and Medicaid. That means the companies that I was working for, you and everybody in this room, was subsidizing my life and my children's life. So if we want to have constructive dialogue, then we need to be talking about what other benefits we can do in the city of Evanston. So one of the things would be, we need more affordable housing. We need housing for low-income workers who live and want to work and live in Evanston. We have I don't know what these zones are called anymore. You have a lot of these tax-free zones in Evanston. We give tax breaks to the developers. It's time we do what a lot of other cities have done. When you build a new condominium, the ones in your ward, the ones all over the city, we should get a portion of that developer's money, and it should go into a community development fund for the city of Evanston to help us with our affordable living, affordable housing, our schools, and our parks. That's how community works. That's what we need. And I just want to finish, and I want to ask everybody here who supports the living wage and affordable housing to please stand. There's also, I'm going to do this.
Your time's up.
I know, but I want to invite a young man up here who lives and works in Evanston and lives on a minimum wage, because I think it's important that the city council hear.
Let's. You know what? There's somebody next in line, Lenny. He's in line.
Let him speak.
He's in line. He's in line.
Let him speak. Wait, what? That's all.
Good morning, Student Council. My name is Carlos Patino. I live in Evanston, and I work for McDonald's. I am also a fighter for the Fight for 15. We need the city of Evanston to raise minimum wage for us in order. That's a different topic. It would help me pay bills. It's just different things. We don't pay attention to any of this. I don't see any, and it helps me save money. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you. Next up. And again, if you could just, yep, well, it looks like you guys formed a line, which is great, and you can just, before you speak, let me just turn it over to Alderman Nguyen with a quick question or comment.
Well, I did want to point out to the prior speaker that we do have an inclusionary housing ordinance that does require developers to pay into our affordable housing fund or include affordable housing in the development. We passed that ordinance last year, and it's in effect. And just recently, we approved a building at 831 Evanston that will be putting $2.3 million into our affordable housing fund. So we've done that already, but we obviously need to keep doing more. Thank you.
Yep, and we need to figure out how we're putting that money to work here in Evanston for the people of Evanston. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Rosemary Nielsen. I thank you for all unanimously supporting the ordinance in Chicago or in Cook County and leading the way, having Evanston lead the way. And I appreciate what you said about what can we do for action. And I quickly thought about what I could do. And I am doing one little thing. I chose not to join Amazon Prime so that I could take that extra $100 and use it to support my local businesses, especially the 2 bookstores in Evanston. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that there's some constructive ideas up here, everyone. Thank you. Next up.
My name is Michelle Oxman. I'm a newcomer to Evanston. I've only lived here 15 years.
I'm close behind you with 18.
I know. I think that it would have been helpful to know that I think this wasn't an emergency. The ordinance was passed 8 months ago. Surely the business community must have said something back then if they're thoughtful and organized. And I have a hard time believing that only at the last minute did everybody start freaking out and thinking about it. That just doesn't seem realistic to me. Second, we don't stand alone. Skokie hasn't passed its ordinance yet, and I'm sure that lots of people will be at that meeting too. Oak Park and Skokie are both following their regular procedures. They weren't doing an emergency to try and at least give the appearance of perhaps getting it in just under the wire without a lot of public notice.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that we may very well affect the action in Skokie by what you've done today. I'm very pleased to know that you are all unanimously in favor of keeping the minimum wage as the county has enacted it. And in the 20 minutes or so that you gave us to think about what we should say instead of what we had prepared, I frankly haven't come up with any ideas yet, but I'm ready to help.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Dale Bradley.
Hello, Mayor Haggerty. I'm Dale Bradley. I've owned a business in Evanston for 28 years. And like many, I was a supporter of yours, and I still am. You just scared the heck out of me. I'm a cynical person, and I've watched that Invasion of the Body Snatchers and then the remake with Nicole Kidman. I thought they got you. I wasn't sure. So I'm glad to see that you are who you are, and that's fantastic. And if nothing else, if this meeting does send a message to Skokie, if it sends a message to Oak Park, then good for that. And I'll take the other side. I had a meeting in Oak Brook with a Republican. And as a financial advisor, I have both. And so I walk a fine line. And I don't get into too many political discussions with my clients. It's a good idea for business. My father was a staunch Republican, Nancy and Ronald Reagan above his bed. He was I know, that's creepy, isn't it? He won an award. He became the second largest landscape contractor in the country and fought unions his whole life. Later in life, after I moved to Evanston and my business, I got to the middle, and now you got me. I'm a bleeding heart liberal, I applaud the city council. I do not find this a waste of time whatsoever. I got to get to Oak Brook. And by the way, I told that guy, my Republican client that I'm meeting with, what I was doing today, and he thought it was the right thing to do. So there is hope. The Republicans aren't always against us.
Thank you, Dale. All right, next speaker.
My name is Margaret Nelson. I am a low-income senior citizen, artist, and activist living in the 5th Ward. Something that seems to be missing in this discussion is what is the university paying and what does the university intend to do about internships for graduates of Evanston Hospital? They have a big campus. They have lots of on-campus work. They should be hiring in Evanston and paying a living wage.
Great. Thank you, Margaret. Okay, next speaker.
Hi, I'm Mark George, president of the Music Institute of Chicago, and I just thought I'd try to bring a nonprofit perspective, which I really hadn't heard much about. So we're a community-based nonprofit music school, very proudly headquartered in Evanston, and we don't take we really can't take any official positions on these things, but we do vote with our feet. And in our school, we're well above minimum wage. We have great health benefits and retirement benefits, and we just introduced a paid medical leave program. So, yeah. And frankly, these things are why we're a little bit more expensive than our competitors, and who don't do that stuff but are very quiet about it. The only qualm I had with this ordinance was the timing, and I think the lack of thought of how it affects not-for-profits. We did those benefits because of long-range planning. So this was in the middle of a fiscal year and really difficult for us to implement. And the other thing is we're pretty unusual in that we have about 60 full-time employees and 150 part-time teachers who have this mosaic of schedules all throughout the year. So it's really an accounting nightmare to keep track of all this. Having said that, we're of course going to do it, and we're going to we're over and above right now, and we'll continue to do that. But I just echo what many of the council or aldermen said. Please support Evanston businesses, and don't forget Evanston not-for-profits as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Okay, next speaker.
Hi, my name is Joyce Swersbicki. I'm a homeowner here and a union worker. And the T-shirt I'm working, I've created something where I take the wealth of the perennials in what I call the burbs, and I'm supposed to be on the south side planting. And we're reestablishing a garden in Englewood. At this time, of course, I support a living wage. But also, too, in our union contracts, there is a progression that just needs to be looked at. I do support small business owners. But the other thing that's hitting the small business owner is a sugar tax. So they're we wrote to Mr. Suffredin's office that it should have been like New York City, 1 penny per item, not ounces. I possibly have union brothers and sisters in the bottling company. This is going to affect their business. I have now small business that's getting rid of their soda product because the whole thing is so unproductive. So it's the timing of the wage, the soda tax, and also, too, about this affordable housing. I'd like to address you, Ms. Nguyen. They can opt out with a fine. So the fine needs to be $100,000.
Right. So just so everybody's clear on that, thank you, because you can opt out, so you're not putting affordable housing in the new development, let's say. So when I made that comment earlier about the council's committed to trying to figure out and develop a strategy and work with the community on how we can best use that money that goes in there, right? Because we do get some HUD CDBG money. In fact, the federal government just re-upped for this new year. Plus, we've got $2.4 million from the new development, I think at 831 that's going in, and an additional money as developments come online may go in there.
But they're not opting out. I agree with you. We should have them build right in the development. We would like to do that.
Yes.
They can make a sizable payment per unit. They have to make a sizable payment per unit if they don't build it in there. So that's how we're getting the 2.
Yeah. We have more to do. We could have a whole discussion on affordable housing. We have more to do there, no doubt.
And it's always great to work with Ms. Fleming. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Caesar.
But, Mayor,
Excuse me for 1 second, Caesar. for
I want
Alderman
to
Rainey.
clarify one thing
Yes.
on the affordable housing issue. There is no fine. You either build the units in the building. I wish you were back here. You either build the units in your building, or you pay in lieu of doing that. There is no fine. You do neither of those, you do not build your building.
That's
There's
right.
no fine.
Thank you, Alderman
So
Rainey. Thank you. All right, Caesar.
My name is Caesar Marion. I'm a resident of Evanston. I have 2 little girls here. I go to Washington School. I also own a Sketchbook Brewing Company with only 3 years in the business, almost 3 years, I should say. We're very proud to employ, for our size, a large number of employees, going 10, 11 with 2 openings. And when it comes to paying the minimum wage, we are beyond that. We've built our business around that. The community having good people. I need great talent to make great product. Melissa Nguyen mentioned the internet. I feel like if people know what they're buying, if they know that the quality is better, they will walk and they will pay more. We noticed that. We did increase our prices not too long ago to support the people that we hire. And maybe one person said something. So I think as businesses go, there is a way out. It's not. I do not feel even a little bit of remorse if they say they can't stay in business because of what they should be paying the people that make their product, that produce the services. Although it may be easier for me because you can't buy beer over the internet. Not yet. So I believe that, that we can, as a city, we can probably, there's a gazillion ideas that we can support those businesses. There are things like, I'm just going to throw a few out there. There are things like the licenses that we have to pay that can be prohibitive sometimes, for some businesses. I don't understand sometimes how some businesses can stay open when they have to pay a multi-$1,000 license to every year. So there's one. There are taxes, certain specialty taxes. We are part of one that could also, that percentage could go into, other programs and paying people more. So I think if we all get together and talk and then hear each other out, we can find solutions for all of these things.
We're at 2 minutes.
Yeah. In closing, we're not alone. We have Chicago bordering us, and they're paying more. So
Thank you, Caesar. Thank you.
My name is Christopher Kruger. I've lived at 2022 Dodge Avenue for the past 18 years. I'm licensed to practice law in the states of Illinois and Wisconsin. I have a master's degree in industrial relations. Prior to my formal education, I was a factory worker in neighboring Morton Grove, Illinois. I was the president of the United Auto Workers Local 890. And when I hear a discussion about business interests, I have to put it in context. And I have to put it in the context that for the past 36 or 37 years, business interests have pretty much had their way with all branches of government and at all levels of government. And that when I hear the small business argument against minimum wage, interestingly, I hear it raised by, in the interest of Walmart, in the interest of McDonald's, in the interest of corporations that have their presence here. So if there's small business people, Evanston's a great place. Small businesses are going to thrive in Evanston. If we double from $8 to $16, small business is going to thrive in Evanston. So let's dispose of that. So I think we need to put into context what is the effect. Being 63 years old, it doesn't make you smart. It just means you've seen a couple things. And what I've seen democracy in the workplace. I've seen where people vote to say, how much are you going to pay us? And if we don't like it, we walk. And if we like it, everything goes well. So we've had a period where business interests have had their way. There's been labor comparative peace. What has been the fruits of this business interests over 37 years?
10 more seconds.
We have 7 times the prison population. We have opioid addiction and overdose. We have people being murdered within 2 blocks of my house in the city of Evanston. We have human trafficking. This is a result of a low-wage environment. So when you go somewhere, something works, It's called efficiency wages. You get what you pay for. The more you pay, the better worker you get. People are going to leave Old Orchard. People are going to leave Wilmette and come here and work in Evanston.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. All right, Eamon.
Hello, my name is Eamon Kelly. I'm the chair of the Democratic Party of Evanston. Thank you. We were among the grassroots organizations that reached out to many of you in the audience and asked you to come and asked you to express your views to our older people about this ordinance. And I just want to thank you so much. I mean, the showing that our community has put forward is tremendous. And I want to thank the council, each and every one of you, and as a body, it is a really remarkable statement that you resisted the wave and that you did it unanimously. And I commit to you that I personally, in the Democratic Party of Evanston, will work to push back, expand the living wage in other communities, and expand living wage countywide, expand living wage statewide, and I would ask everybody in the audience to help in that effort. So thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, Elliot. Excuse Elliot, before you make a remark, let me just, Alderman Fleming, did you have something?
Yes, thank you. Eamon, if you can return for 1 second. So I do have something, and this is going to lose me some votes if I run again. So here we go. So I am going to challenge Eamon and
Challenge
what I call the referendum ladies.
Okay.
Because you guys pounded the payment hard for what we will see on our tax bills for our schools, which love or hate, for an increase in property taxes.
That's
and
correct.
we know that our renters are going to see that increase on their bills, on their rent. And so I challenge those, I'll say women, because that's who I mostly saw, who are not here, that they get involved, they shop in Evanston, they make sure they're doing what they can to make sure people are not laid off, because some of those same renters are now going to be our $10 an hour workers. So I want that same enthusiasm here at the council, at the business meeting, whatever we do next, to make sure that this happens in Evanston and we don't lose jobs and we don't lose workers.
Well, it is true. I was one of the people who, with a group, helped lead the referendum, which was another moment recently that I've been incredibly proud of our community. And I agree with you that all of us as a community, and certainly the group that supported it, have an obligation to work to make sure that the impact of that referendum doesn't mean that people have to leave our community, because our community is special in part because of its economic, racial, and ethnic diversity. And we're going to have to work hard to keep it that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eamon. Elliot.
Thank you. My name is Elliot Sation. I'm active with two organizations that have been very involved in this whole struggle. One is the People's Lobby that worked with Larry Suffredin, and I've been working actively with the justice team of the Open Communities organization, which has tried to make the various villages on the North Shore more open to all the people who work and live there, and paying a decent wage to people who work in your community is one way to welcome them. Now, you asked for some suggestions. I'm going to give a real quick run through. Affordable housing is your number one priority. That would make a lot of difference for people who are working low-wage jobs. Number two, another issue that's coming up, on-demand scheduling that many big companies require of their employees and threaten to fire them if they don't show up. There are communities that are beginning to deal with this issue. We could deal with that here. We could also catch up with the Chicago minimum wage if we wanted. We have home rule powers. We could do that. I don't know whether the city will be giving subsidies as they did in the past to attract businesses here, but in the past generally they did not ask for commitments on the employment side. And when we canvassed, we found a lot of people said, why don't they give priority to people who live in Evanston when they advertise their jobs? One place that did it was Valley, and they've apparently done very well. So that's another thing. I think it was Robin or Cicely mentioned there are lots of programs in the city to help to provide opportunities to learn about entrepreneurial skills, other kinds of life skills and economic skills. Do we make sure that people who work here know about those programs, are invited to come, and it's made possible for them to attend them? We certainly could be doing that. Finally, if you're really concerned today about making sure that Skokie does not opt out, we're going to be phone banking nearby, and if anybody wants to come and talk to me, I'll tell you where to go. It's going to be very simple, but it will help us, and it also will show that our community is concerned about other areas around. So thanks very much.
Thank you, Elliot.
Hi, I'm Allison McGuire. I'm in the 9th Ward. I have slightly different feedback for you guys today. I do feel like this meeting was a colossal waste of time. I appreciate that you are all unanimously in support of this ordinance, and I appreciate that you have given some of the people here in this room a platform, but I believe, like our city clerk, that you have violated the Open Meetings Act. I will be filing a formal request for review if it's not already being done. And I caution you, don't ever do this again. You are breaking trust with your constituents. You know, why are we here? You went around the council chamber and every one of you said that you were in support. So if that's true, then two things happened here. Either the upswell from the community and the pressure you got on social media made you rethink your positions, or you just wanted to have a big rally and kumbaya in the council chamber on my time. Personally, I think you should pay us all a minimum of $10 an hour for the time that we've lost here today. So I just don't ever want to see something like this happen again, and I will absolutely be pursuing every legal recourse to make sure that it doesn't.
Thank you, Allison. Okay.
Good morning. My name is Melissa Blunt. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and I think an emerging artist in the community. I just want to echo what Alderperson Fleming said, and to be mindful of how we have the most vulnerable people that we're thinking about when you talk about $10 an hour. And $10 is just not enough. We are always asking our most vulnerable constituents to wait and to piecemeal their existence. And that is just disgusting behavior. And so I want to say, Mayor Hagerty, I think that it was really frightening for most people, and like the woman who just spoke, to hear you all at election time say that you were going to vote for 15 and then have this discussion now just seems really as if it's disingenuous. And so the other thing I want to say to you all is you talked about action items. We've all heard about affordability, but what about making it affordable for businesses to exist? Caesar of Sketchbook talked about the licensing and that kind of thing. The rents on Central Street for business owners, the rents on Main Dempster, that area, we have tons of storefronts that are sitting empty because landlords are so greedy that they want these extraordinary, exorbitant rents, and it prohibits people from starting businesses. So I think if you could brainstorm with some of these landowners about their rents, that would be one thing you could do. And to think about how all of the people who live here in Evanston, my husband and I, we both are working people. We can't afford to buy a house here in Evanston. That is shameful. I don't want to live in a tiny studio. I know I'm.
Yeah, too.
I know, Wally. So I know that we, have these tiny units, but that's not realistic for a family to live and exist in. So I want you to be more compassionate, more considerate, and more thoughtful when you're talking about what you really want Evanston to look like, because what you say and what really happens, there's a big disparity between those two things.
Thank you. Betsy?
Good morning, everybody. I'm Betsy Wilson. I am a resident here in Evanston, and I'm also a small business owner.
Do you want to speak a little closer to the mic so the people on TV can hear you?
Is that better?
Or you can move it down, whatever's comfortable.
I'm a small business owner, and I echo, or I couldn't possibly top what Melissa has said about the need to support our vulnerable communities here in Evanston. And I'm so glad to see that we're all supporting the increase in the minimum wage. I would also like to express my dismay at the way this meeting has been conducted. I think the manner in which it was called was illegal. And I specifically want to call out City Clerk Reed for his leadership on this issue. And I think he took a courageous and risky stand in taking leadership on this issue. So I hope that we all remember him as we go forward and continue to support his work. I'm glad of the outcome. I'm not confident that it would have been the same if we were not all here. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex?
Good morning, Alex Morgan, 728 Hinman Avenue. And I also wanted to maybe state, when most people look at me, they don't think of somebody who works in any kind of business. I identify as an organizer, but it is June 30th. I was working yesterday to make sure that our organization of 40 folks made payroll today. So I did want to speak about that as something that I really care about when it comes to this issue. When we started our organization and thought about our values and what we were going to do, we made sure that our lowest level worker was making at least $15 an hour, received health insurance benefits, received time off up front that they would need for sick leave as opposed to the earned sick leave, which we've pointed out. I appreciate the conversation here this morning. I do have a suggestion, because I started this open letter because we did learn about this, and I wasn't going to call anybody at 11:30 on a Wednesday night to start this open letter. And I know more than one alderperson is probably frustrated with how this approach took place, just as we were frustrated with the timing of the meeting. I have 700 or so printed letters here for you, Mayor Hagerty. I'll share an electronic list with Alder folks so you can figure out how to get back to everyone who may not have directly reached out to you if you so choose. And I think these are folks who have expressed that they care about this issue, that they will invest back in our community, put requirements on the entry forms so that folks were putting in their addresses so you know what ward they're in, and hopefully they all were Evanston residents and we can weed out the couple that were not. And like I said, more have been added. So I'm going to give this to you, Mayor Hagerty. I'm not going to slam it in front of you.
Thank you.
I'm giving it to you in a box. So, and I hope that that's symbolic of a more productive dialogue that we're having today. So thank you for the time.
That. Thank you, Alex. Can I ask, with a raise of hands, because I'm just conscious of our time and the time remaining, put your hand up if you. I'm going to end. Okay, I'm going to end with the lady in the back with the bag. Okay, all right, come on up.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Hicks. So I just have a suggestion. My suggestion is that you look really carefully at the kind of data that you're collecting during this process. So as you pointed out, Evanston is now, where Hope is going to be a beacon for surrounding communities. One really great way for that to work out is for us to make sure to collect everything we need so that if we need to show other communities what we're doing, we can say this precisely is what happened here. This is exactly how it played out. So I know that the city probably collects all kinds of data, but I think specifically for this transition, look really closely and maybe you can form some kind of group, I don't know, to specifically say what kind of data do we need? Because one of the things, the Seattle study that keeps coming up, which is not peer reviewed yet, by the way, one of the things that's clear is that they didn't really have the information that they needed to make a firm conclusion. So I think it would be really great if Evanston, over the next few years, has enough information to make a firm conclusion. So
thank you. Thank you. Great suggestion. Thank you.
Good morning. Reverend Brett Lortie, the Unitarian Church of Evanston. I was going to come up and quote Jesus and Jeremiah, but instead I'm going to cede my time as an Evanston resident living at 1830 Ridge to a non-resident who works in Evanston. I understand that I'm able to do that, so I'd like to introduce Jesse, who's asked to say a few words.
Terrific. Thank you. Welcome, Jesse.
Thank you so much for having me. My name is Jessie Gauger-Corrali. I am a Local 134 journeyman electrician. I left work early today because of a little story I want to give right here, and then I'm going to end with the prompt that was given about the ideas for businesses and workers, how to support these things. So the story for why I'm here, I woke up this morning at 2:30 a.m. and I did not plan to be in this meeting. I planned to go to work. So I left early and sacrificed 3.5 hours of pay so that I could be here because I am here to speak on behalf of an Evanston resident who works at an Evanston business right here, right a walk away from Northwestern University where I am working. This worker served me a meal at 3:30 a.m. this morning before my work shift because I was so hungry and so tired. So I'm here to speak on behalf of that Evanston resident who, also important to note, I've heard discussion about this during this meeting. There is a racial justice element. This person is much darker skinned than I am and is not able to attend this meeting because they have to be at a funeral. So this person told me this morning at 3:30 a.m. That they were doing the shift manager's responsibilities without getting the shift management pay. They were doing the paperwork in the office when I got to the restaurant, and they asked me to wait about 10 to 15 minutes so that they could finish doing what they were doing in the office, which I had no problem because I was really hungry, and it is, I think, the only place that's open anywhere nearby. I've only been here a week. I don't really know.
I need you to wrap up in like 15 seconds.
Oh, I will do my best. So they work the overnight shift, and they are homeless. Their family is homeless. So it's difficult to work the overnight shift. They told me that they are sick, and they had formerly worked at Northwestern, where I'm working right now. So I don't know what that low-wage worker, who should be standing in my position here right now, would suggest for what was suggested for the ideas, but these are mine. So support for workers would include a living wage, benefits, universal health care, and access to union rights. That's what gives me this good job. Affordable ADA accessible housing, this equity meeting that I heard about, there's going to be good work that's going to happen there. That needs to be supported by this entire group here. And then sick pay. That's going to help the worker because they're going to get better faster and be able to get back to work. That person that was sick feeding me would not have been sick, potentially getting me sick and making me lose money because I don't get sick pay in our contract.
Thank you.
The business would, the workers would be able to, those same workers spend money at local businesses, right? So there would be better retention for the workers because when people are financially and socially supported by their employer, they're going to stick around more. Sick pay would keep those germs at home so that your business
I just have to be respectful.
would lose
I
less
need to be
time.
respectful, but I think you got a good list there. Living wages, benefits, universal health care, union rights, housing, equity.
And it all made it into the minutes, so
Thank you.
you guys
Thank
will be
you.
able to discuss.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much.
All right, next up.
Good morning. I'm Jeff Flum, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the American Massage Therapy Association. We have our national headquarters here in Evanston on 500 Davis. We do very rich benefits for our employees. We give 2 weeks paid sick time up front when someone starts and an additional 4 weeks vacation. What I'd ask that the mayor and the council all take a look at is the rules behind the paid sick time. Their accrual and the way that they roll over is going to be an administrative nightmare for most. The software programs that millions of employees are registered through in timekeeping is not easily adjustable at all to carry over, have options to switch from one bank to another. And for us, it's actually going to be a reduction in benefits for our employees because of the FMLA requirement, and that portion of it is going to be more restrictive. So it's actually a step backwards for more progressive employers here in Evanston. So I would urge the mayor and the council just to take a look at those rules. We are all in favor of at least 5 days of sick time. You know, I think it could be as easily as just give it up front, use it or lose it for a year. So I'd ask that all representatives take a closer look at that because it's going to be a compliance issue moving forward. I appreciate you guys having the meeting here today. I know that the original ordinance rolled out, I think, in October, but the final rules actually weren't in place until June 16th. So I don't think that's something that's been said here, but it has been a changing game over the last month, so it's not like it came out of the blue. Well, it kind of did in the last couple weeks. So I appreciate you giving us a chance to have our voices here and go over the 45 minutes a little bit. So thank you all.
You bet. Thank you, Jeff. All right, and our last public speaker.
How are you? Hi, Mayor. Like you, I come from public health. My name is Karen Heffernan. I spend about 40% of my time in advocacy. And like a lot of people here, we are making a difference. We've been testifying against the governor on the ACA. We did pass something recently. What we want to ask you, Mayor, is I'm going to apologize because a lot of people haven't done this yet. I am from the academic community, and we're not given enough. I will testify, I do not think Northwestern's giving enough. So my question to you is maybe we could set up a volunteer group. We've been at your youth council, for instance, where we can help Oakton, and we can have our Office of Engagement at Northwestern, and we can look at our training sites. We want to let you know that we're seeing things in rural communities that Evanston could look at. For instance, we bus some of our students, so we could bus more of our students to Oakton, and we could use more of our people. There is a book, and I think it refers to some of our problems we're dealing with here, and it's called Disciplined Minds. What it means is disciplined minds. What it means is some of us in academia are not giving back enough, and I will attest to you that we're not. And Harvard's been taken to task on this, as has the University of Chicago. So I will apologize for that community, and I think we should be volunteering more. I suggest that all the division chiefs at the university, at Northwestern University, be committed to this, and I think they could help us a lot. And I'd be willing to gather that data for you, Mayor. And I also believe that we could do a lot with the healthcare worker issues. We have a lot of marginally employable youth, but we could work them in a situation where we can build on their skill sets. We can move them from CNA, LPN to nursing. This is a growing industry, as the mayor knows, and I think we need to build on the growing industries. But I will apologize for the academic industries because we haven't done enough, and we do need to be taken to task. All of the border communities that are around academia, we need to be taken to task, and we need to help the community. Thanks again.
Thank you, Karen. We're done with public comment, and I appreciate everybody offering such constructive suggestions to the council and to the city. We will continue that conversation of what we can do to help employees and help employers here in Evanston. I know some people are frustrated about this meeting. I think this meeting was a great day for Evanston. I think this meeting affirmed our values. I think this meeting said that public discourse matters in Evanston. And I think that all of the folks that showed up here in the conversation that we had here, we are going to see some good things possibly happen in Skokie and in Oak Park. Let's go out there and do it. Thank you, everybody. This meeting's adjourned.